Who said yes?
No.
Good that you changed your mind. Because you're not looking over here, you're looking at these guys, because this is what you're actually making a decision about. Any of these less than 7? No, so you're good. So that step where you eliminate all assets that have internal rates of return less than minimum acceptable is done. Sir?
Are these incremental rates of return?
The ones on the right are incremental. The ones on the left are actually the internal rates of returns of the assets themselves. So start off with A as your best choice right now. The first thing you're going to do is see if you should upgrade from A to B. Should you upgrade from A to B?
Wait, so which direction is it moving? Because it says
Well, you're going to go from A to B. So the incremental internal rate of return is right here, B less A. So do you go ahead and upgrade from A to B? Because this is the benefit you get from throwing in extra cash on top of A in order to get to B. That's the incremental benefit of upgrading.
Isn't it backwards? Isn't it going from, because this is going from B to A?
This is actually going from A to B.
Oh.
It's B minus A.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Now, do you upgrade from A to B?
Yeah.
Who says yes? Raise your hand. Who says no? Raise your hand. The no's actually have it on this one. Because what you're saying is that there's some extra cash required in order to say, okay, I want to go to B. Cash over and above what you paid for A. What you're saying is that if I go ahead and take the extra cash and upgrade to B, I only get 2% on it. Alternately, I could take the extra cash, throw the minimum acceptable rate of return account, and get 7 only. So do you want to get 2 on the extra cash, or do you want to get 7 on the extra cash? 7. So clearly, this jump right here, you don't do it. B's bad. So you made this A versus B comparison, and what you did is you threw out B, and you said A is great still. So now what you get to do is check and see if you should jump from A to C.
So
Because it's the next candidate. Now,
at this point, why don't you just go for the highest percentage in all of those comparisons?
and all these?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. There's actually no reason for it to work. So remember the whole thing about the big one is not the right one? The big one is really not the right one in here. It just doesn't work that way. Now, do you upgrade from A to C?
No.
No. Also, the additional cash that you put in to go from A to C gets you only 3%. If you left it in that minimum acceptable rate of return account, you get 7. Okay, so it's better than being in the account. So once again, there's no jump that can take place here. Check again. Do we want to go from A all the way up to D? Does that one make sense?
Yes.
And here's where it makes sense. What you say is, if you throw in the extra cash, you get 11% on that extra cash versus the 7 that you have right here. And so clearly, A is no longer your best candidate. D is your best candidate. Now, what you go to do is that last little check. Should you jump from D to E?
Yes.
Yes. Anything in here actually able to read this? Yes. Like 6 weeks or whatever it's been, you can actually, what's it say by the way? 16%. So do you upgrade from D to E?
Yes.
There you go. So what you do is you say D is no longer your best candidate. E is. Do you have anything else that you can go ahead and compare it to? E's the best. You good? Or is that like,
I'm still not following the math.
it doesn't make sense. Okay, for those of you who are kind of looking at the math on it, let me make a picture for you to see if it may help. I got one hand and another hand, and then I got another hand real fast. Okay.
So if we had ordered it so that E was above D, oh, yeah, EA is 34%.
EA?
Yeah, upgrading to E from A.
Well, in other words, if D wasn't there at all,
If we reordered the list, we weren't doing it. Yeah.
in real life, as long as you keep track of what's alone and what's not alone, you'll get to the same spot. It's just, it'll break your head.
Okay.
So,
Similar question, why didn't we consider the upgrade from A to E? Why did we just...
well, we had already rejected A because all we're doing is pairwise terms. And the thing is that let me make my picture. The picture may actually clarify a little bit. So you want
That's the same one.
Okay, let's go for a picture then. And give me, just bear with me on this one in order to make it so that this does make sense. And this won't necessarily be related to this over here, but it'll probably help clarify. And I will also state that we have 8 minutes to do this. So, picture. Along the bottom right here, what I'm going to give you is the present worth of costs at, say, 10%. Okay? So this is everything that it costs you to buy the asset. On the vertical axis, I'm going to give you the present worth of the benefits at 10%. Okay? So there's where all the negative numbers get accumulated into a single number at 10%. The vertical axis is where all the positive numbers get accumulated into a single number. So it's a reasonable one. And what I can do here is draw in a 45-degree line. And that represents the locus of all points that have present worth of cost equal to present worth of benefits. Reasonable? So on the line, present worth of 0. Below the line, your present worth of costs are greater than the present worth of benefits. Above the line, present worth of benefits are greater than costs. So anything that's below the 45-degree line, you don't want. We'll continue to use that rule. And so let's put in a couple of dots which represent some investments. So we'll have basically a dot right there that says don't buy anything. And then we'll have another dot which is, say, asset A. Another dot which is, say, asset B. Another dot which is, say, asset C. Another dot which is, say, asset D. You kind of call it like that. Does that work for you? All right. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to say, well, which of these assets should I get rid of if the minimum acceptable rate of return is going to be 10% because I'd never buy it? B. B is in that range where you go, okay, clearly it's going to have negative net present value because the present worth of its costs are greater than the present worth of the benefits. Below the line, negative present worth, above the line, positive present worth. So you can eliminate that one as you'll never get to it. Now let's start making some other comparisons. First comparison we're going to see is, should we actually do something? Should we go from doing nothing to doing A? And the way that you can think about it here, and I'll just drop a little line, it's, do I make an investment equal to the cost of what it takes in order to get to A? So this big of an investment. If you do that big of an investment into asset A, you get this much of a benefit out of it. Alternately, what you can say is, oh, I'll just leave it in the minimum acceptable rate of return account and I'll get that kind of benefit out of it. Now, would you rather have big benefit or little benefit? The same cost. You want the big one. So what you do is you say that, yes, I should go ahead and upgrade from doing nothing in order to do A. Okay? So that's kind of decision making you're doing. It's, do you do better buying the asset, upgrading to the next asset, or just leaving the money in the minimum acceptable rate of return account? Let's go ahead and then check and see if we should go from A, B's out of the picture, all the way up to C. So we'll see if that one makes sense.
So are we measuring then not from the present worth cost, but from A over and seeing like...
That's exactly what I'm going to do right here with the black line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the line which is parallel to the 45, like this. And if you drop right down, that's the vertical that's there. So this right here is parallel to there. And so what you're seeing is the gap from here to here. For all you visual people, that's the additional investment that you're making. For this additional investment, and here's where I'm making a right angle right here. This is not intersector, it's just a right angle. So I'm just sliding this up. You can either make this additional investment and get this gain by putting in the minimum acceptable rate of return account, or you make this additional investment and get this gain by upgrading to C. Do you want to upgrade to C? Yes, you do. So that's a good path. That's a good upgrade. And we're actually going to add another asset on the end in just a bit. So you do this because it's a good idea, and you notice that A's been wiped out. Now let's see if we should upgrade to C. D, sorry. Now, it's going to turn out that this is a bad idea. And it's a bad idea, as you said before, because I can make another line that's parallel. So this one's parallel to this one's parallel to this one. So those are all the relative benefits which you get from keeping things in the minimum acceptable rate of return account. And I'm going to keep this extending up here till asset D. So what we're saying here is, if you make this additional benefit, this additional investment, should you leave it into the minimum acceptable rate of return account and get that? Or should you buy D? Buying D is a bad idea, so you don't buy that asset, you don't upgrade. We're following the same algorithm, we're just doing it in a graphical way.
Question.
Sir.
In real world, non-choice constraint problems, how do you know to buy 2A instead of upgrading to C?
You have to frame it as choice 1 is get 1 of A, choice 2 is buy 2 of A. And so you have to frame it as an inclusive choice. There are ways you can go ahead and do these problems continuously, except we're not quite there yet. Okay? We have a new math constraint we have in this course. Otherwise, we can do some very cool things. Okay? Does the algorithm make a little bit more sense now, given this particular picture? I got a couple of heads that shook. Okay. Anyway, let's try it again, but this time green, and we got 2 minutes to pull this one off. So give me an interest rate. Give me a higher kind of interest rate here.
12%.
We have minimum acceptable rate of return equal to 12. Okay, so only look at the green and not look at the blue. Do we eliminate any of these assets because you would never choose it when the minimum acceptable rate of return is 12%?
C.
You'd get rid of 10 because 10 is less than 12. And you get rid of E because 8 is less than 12. So you see how those two go away, but everything else is still a viable alternative, correct? So let's start with our first best candidate, and let's see if we should upgrade from A to B. We'll see if that one's actually a good idea. So look at that B less A increment.
Good idea.
2%. Good idea or bad idea to upgrade?
Bad idea.
Bad idea because 2 is less than 12. And so this is a very bad idea. But now we've got to go ahead and check and see if we should upgrade to the next candidate, which is D. Do you upgrade from A to D? No. Because 11 is less than 12. And so this is also a bad idea. Do we have any candidates left?
No.
So the correct answer remains easy enough. Sir.
Why we don't use D?
What if we don't use, we did try to use D, but it didn't work. Here's the deal, in real life, you know that this is actually requires a higher investment in order to get in, it has a higher internal rate of return, so this looks a little stupid. But we're just using random numbers and following an algorithm. So it will look funny. Those of you who are looking at it saying, yeah, this one looks kind of funny, it will look funny. Okay. So that's the algorithm we have. It is 11:35, so that means it's time to take the quiz question, the critical question. So close up shop.